Okay, did I get it? Hello again, I'm Sarami. My sound wasn't working, so we restarted the stream. I hope that you guys can hear me now. I moved my stream setup yesterday, so something must have happened. And things like that are always a mystery. So, anywho, let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. Hopefully, I've got it all sorted out. I'll change my needle while you guys get here since I'm a little bit further in the future than you. Hopefully you guys are finding me. Oops, I don't want to change my presser foot. Putting in a new needle since the bin is a little bit of heavy duty sewing at some point. Yay! Yeah, that was kind of a weird one. I don't know why, but my microphone, it changed where it was pulling it from. It changed it to nothing. So even though it showed it's still there, so I just clicked it. Hello. Nice to see you all. I'm so glad you guys found me again. I'm just changing my needle. I'm super hot right now. It's like 107 here today. So I may have to, I've turned down my air bit. I may have to turn it down a little bit more. I know a few of you are probably hoping for a nice, short, edited bin video, but I kept the pattern pretty affordable, so I didn't make a dedicated video, but I will try and keep things moving along. And if you are watching this not live, feel free to skip ahead. There's those little circular arrows. You can always just skip ahead 10 seconds or something like that. Yeah, Cass, yeah, I had a little bit of an audio issue. So let's see, make sure you have a nice fresh needle because you're going to be sewing binding and stiffener. If you've sewn the project bag, it is not as heavy duty as that, I promise. It's a lot easier than that one, especially because we're not turning corners in the same way with the same amount of thicknesses. It's going to be far more manageable. I think the only thing you're going to find a little bit awkward is if you have a big tall one, is fitting it under your machine. So all right, I'm going to turn down my air conditioner real quick. Say hi to everyone. It's nice to see so many different people here talking in chat. I really appreciate it. And I've definitely got some handle options for you guys, a couple of different label holder options, and I even cut one more bin out. I didn't get the fourth one. So hopefully that covers everybody. All the sewing steps are going to be covered today. I was just hoping to do like one of each exactly the way it is in the pattern stuff. Yeah, yeah. No, it's like 107. It was 107 here yesterday. And you know the worst part is I could not figure out why I was so hot, but my seat warmer was on in my truck. It was so hot. Hey, Christy. Well, nice to see you. Okay, I'm going to turn my air conditioner in just a second. We're back. Okay. Hello. Someone from Trinidad, wow. I'm trying to keep up with chat here. 73, that sounds pretty good. Ooh, Christy, yeah, you have me beat. You can have it. You can win. I actually don't mind the heat too much, but of course I live the pampered lifestyle of an indoor creature, so, you know. Oh, I know her kittens are really cute. All right, so I know if you're new here and you don't understand how a live stream or a live chat works, this is kind of how it is. I will be interacting with chat, so feel free to jump in and ask questions, comment, or anything like that. And if you're not watching this live and you're sick of the banter, just skip ahead. So you don't need to comment and tell me you don't like it, because this is what a live stream is all about. It's all about interacting and helping, and kind of figuring out what people need or what they want to see better, getting a live response and a response right away, which is really helpful. I've found live streams really helpful, so yeah. Nice. It's just a brisk 93, exactly. Yeah, so watermelon, that's my tip, watermelon. But the cool thing is all our prickly pear are ripe, so I'm gonna go harvest a bunch this weekend. Someone came in our valley and picked up a bunch. I guess they make prickly pear wine, so that's kind of an interesting thing. The guy before us loved cactus and agave. So there's too much of that on my property, in my opinion. I like it. It's gorgeous. It's not native, and it just kind of seems a little out of place sometimes, though. But it is kind of cool that there's a fruit on a cactus, you know? All right, let's get going. So if you have got the bin pattern, you'll know that it's not really a pattern, it's a schematic. So, or not really a schematic, but a worksheet. So, oh, Louise, I can't wait to see. Ooh, a Tuscan melon. Okay, so so the key to filling out that worksheet is to know what size you want your bin. That's it. All you need to know is the width, the side length, and the height that you want your bin to finish. And then you just plug in the numbers. It's even color coded. It's very simple. The math is not hard at all. I imagine it's easily 4th grade math. And it's minimal. Like, it's the minimal. It's like, take your A measurement and add a 1/4 inch and put that new total here. That is all you have to do. It's very simple. There's one division that you have to do. You take 1, divide by 2, add a 1/2 inch, put it there. That's the most complicated the math ever gets. And I've been testing them out, and so far it works every single time. I imagine if you're doing something really huge or really small, it may be either a little trickier to sew or tricky to fit on the fabric. And so I think watching the cutting video might give you some tips on that, because it's pretty easy to quickly exceed the width of your fabric if you want to cut it with the direction of the print. So if your print has a direction like the elephants are right side up, only one direction, then you probably want to make sure you know the size of your bin before you buy that fabric or use it, because if your bin exceeds, like the perimeter of the bin right here, if this measurement right here, you're making an all fabric one, and this whole measurement here exceeds the width of your fabric, you're going to be into trouble. You're going to have to turn it right 90 degrees. The other thing you can do, though, is just seam it. That's totally fine. Add a seam on one of those corners and just add a 1/4 inch both on each piece, so you have a seam allowance. That's it. So there's so much flexibility and possibilities with this. I think once you do a couple, your mind's going to kind of go, oh, wait, I can do this, I can do that. I could have even made the clear front versions a much simpler pattern, but I felt like it was good to keep the pattern piece looking exactly like the other one, just so visually you didn't get kind of lost in the sauce with the A's and B's and stuff. So I haven't been using the prickly pears, but I have tasted them, and I'm really like gung-ho on them, but at the same time, I'm super careful. I use tongs to pick them. I use leather gloves, and then I have to like burn them to get the little, they're called glochids, I think, these little tiny prickles on the fruit off of them. So I've been burning them over my gas stove, and that was a bad idea. I didn't realize it, so I went to, like, the next day, my stove was clean, we didn't use it to cook on, so a couple days later we did, and I was wiping it up, and I kept getting prickles in me, and I couldn't figure out where they were coming from, and it was from those prickly pears. So I obviously can't use my kitchen stove. I need to use maybe the barbecue or something like that. Hey, Judith. Oh, it's so great to see so many of you here. Sydney. Yeah, you're living in the Pacific Northwest. I can tell. I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I was driving around yesterday. I never leave I go my office, my home, my home, my office, my office, my home. That's all I ever do. Yesterday I dropped packages off at UPS, and I went by the plant store, which is in between, and I was like so hot, and I was like, why am I so hot? My seat heater was on. I don't know when it turned on, but I didn't notice it, and I came back to my office, worked all afternoon, then got in my truck and went home, and I still was like, God, my seat will not cool off. When was the sun on my seat? And I finally realized it. Why isn't it that hot in the winter, you know? Okay, I changed my needle, so I put in a new needle if you need to. So first thing I'm going to go over is labels, label holders and handles, because it's the first step. If you're planning on doing either of these or both, it's the first step in the sewing is that you need to attach your label holder or your handle or both, because once we get any further past that, it gets a little tricky. And trust me, I've forgotten a few times, and it was hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was kind of a pain in the butt. So, right? Oh my gosh, those seat heaters. I will never own a car without them, though. I like them so much. Okay, so let's see here. So as far, these are my label holder ideas right here. As far as handles go, like, you can use anything. You could just put a little piece of rickrack on there, or like a little loop coming off the top, right? Let's see here. I have all these other things in here. So say I didn't want a handle on the front of this, and also I didn't mention this the other day when we were cutting these out, but I will say, if you're putting a handle on vinyl only, that has to be a light duty bin. I have a lot of experience with vinyl. I only had one bag fail in all of the thousands of bags that we made in vinyl, and because I was totally kind of an idiot. Oh, what needle size? Oh, that's why you're asking needle size. You mean sewing machine. Christy, your username, it looks like a knitting instruction, so I don't know why, but I just associated needle size with knitting for some reason. Yeah, so I'm gonna use probably a size 16, but I will be honest, my machine only has 16s and 18s, but I would probably stick between depending on your fabric weight. If you're using heavier duty fabrics, definitely get into that denim needle size, like 16 or something. And a 16 is a 100. Here's the needle size. You probably can't see it because I have the autofocus off, but don't look at that 10. That is not the needle size. 100/16 is probably my preferred. If I'm doing super heavy duty, I go up to 18, but that's because that's what my machine is calibrated for. A home sewing machine, I would just test it out. So, sorry, I saw your comment. Sorry, Christy. Thank you for asking it again. So with the handle on the vinyl, here's the deal. Basically, when you're sewing onto vinyl, you're perforating it, right? So you don't want to over sew vinyl because you're just creating a perforated edge. So if you are sewing like this right here is a little box, right? The stitching is a box on here because I enclosed the raw edge of the webbing so it didn't fray. If this got a ton of use pulling and everything, eventually this is going to pull right off the bag. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So you need to be careful when you're doing this to vinyl. If you want to, I've never had a problem with the binding on the vinyl. It's never pulled off. I think that this acts differently because it's not a point of stress. And stress points are usually what lead to failures in most garments or fabrics. So same with the label holder. This will be totally fine. I mean, you could even use this as a little bit of a pull, you know, to pull your bin in and out if you need to. I think the handle personally is a bit decorative unless you're putting your bin on a surface that kind of is tacky. I found that on super smooth shelves, it kind of creates, some of the smoother fabrics would create kind of a suction on it. I don't know how else to put it. And so it is a little bit, you know, having something to pull is nice. And, you know, pulling the top edge will kind of distort your bin over time, but I really don't think it's gonna be quick. You know, it's gonna take a while. What was the other thing I was gonna say about that? I think you don't have to have a handle, but maybe even just like a little loop. So say you just have a little piece of rickrack or a ribbon, a narrow ribbon, you could just stick it in this little binding edge up here just to have something to pull onto. You could even put it in the seam right here, right? You could put this anywhere you want. You could put it down at the bottom. Maybe you want your bins to pull from the bottom where it's most secure. You could put this in the binding edge, you know, just stick it into the last step right there. And it could be webbing, it could be, I think I have a little skinny piece of ribbon sitting here. oh yeah, right here. You know, just like a little piece of ribbon. Maybe you put a little loop, you know, coming out of your binding edge. You could just use a ribbon on the front of the bin. This one I've attached a decorative ribbon to the back of some grosgrain. I've done bias. I've done webbing. These bins are this right here, so it's a 2-inch wide, kind of a pretty sturdy handle, and I just folded it and stitched a box over it. I didn't do anything clever. It's all I did. It doesn't help, Barbara. Thanks for asking that, because the only thing that really helps is not sewing it only to vinyl. So if you wanted to maybe take your vinyl front and piece in a piece of fabric here and put your handle on that fabric, that's really the only way around. I know that sounds like it doesn't, like it's not true, but trust me, it is. When I had this bag fail, this particular bag, it was really unfortunate because it was an extremely limited edition that we had made for a Harry Potter event, and I had multiple artists involved. I created a niffler, we screen printed it or heat transferred it onto the bag. There were rhinestones, like actual rhinestones he was reaching for, or a time turner you could pick too. And I changed the design of this bag last second because people wanted more clear front. And one end of the handle was on the vinyl, and the bag started failing. Most people's didn't fail. There were like 5 people. And they were like, I still don't want to give it up. But I tried all kinds of ways to fix it. And what I found was if the webbing was pulling on itself and not from the bag, or if it was pulling on fabric, it was fine. So, nice, Christy. So anyway, so just be creative with your handles. Use what you have on hand. I have twill tape here. Let's see, do I have a better picture of what twill tape? Twill tape usually looks like this, has this little texture on it. So if you don't want to use something synthetic, twill tapes are usually cotton. And there's, you know, the polyester grosgrain, nylon webbing. I have all kinds of options. So I don't think the bins I'm going to be sewing today need handles. But I'm going to sew some onto some scrap fabric for you. Lastly, one of the bins one of the handles you could do is you could make your own, like this one here. I'm going to show you that really quick. And I'm going to show you how to sew it on. And I'm going to hope I have some scissors here too. I do. And a Sharpie. All right, so say you want your handle to finish 1 inch wide. So you want to end up with a handle that's 1 inch wide, right? And you want to use fabric. Maybe you want to use the fabric your bins are made out of, the lining, or some canvas or whatever. But what you need to do is draw on your fabric the length of the handle, and I think like 8 inches in general is a good place to start, depending on the width of your bin. All right, so we'll just say 8 or whatever it is in the instructions. And then you're going to make this 4 times the finished width. So if I want it 1 inch, I'm going to make this 4 inches wide. All right. Oops. All right. I'm going to cut this out. Oh, these are not, I don't cut with fabric scissors very often, so don't judge me. Okay, and this, I'm telling you this method because I feel like it's a really great way to get a handle without having to turn it inside out. I know someone out there might be saying, oh yeah, you just sew this right sides together and turn it right side out. That is a kind of a pain when you're using anything that's kind of stiff, and I find this method to be a lot easier. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to iron it in half. Fold it in half and iron it like this, right? Press it really good. Then open it up, and now you're going to take these raw edges and press them to the fold. just like this. Okay, and now you're going to fold it back in half, just like that. And now we're going to stitch it along each edge. What I like about this, I know it uses a lot of fabric, but when you have the fabric filling it all the way left to right, you're not going to get a ridge in there, and because a ridge can be kind of distracting, and just it doesn't look very nice, and it just may not, I don't know, it's not as smooth. If you want to save fabric, you really could just do a seam allowance rather than filling it all the way. I just find this to be really satisfying and easy because you just iron it out the machine, right? Hi, Uma. Hey, Derek. Oh, that's so cool. So make sure that you're really accurate when you fold these things. They're stacked right on top of each other. Okay. I'm just making a sample handle if you wanted to use fabric to make a handle. And I say you go to the other side, even if you want to flip it, start at the same end and do your top stitching again. This way you prevent the risk of any torquing that you might get. All right, and now you have your handle. That's it. It uses a little bit of fabric and width-wise, but because we're just using it on the front of the bin, it's not going to use that much, right? We're not talking about a really long strap for a bag. And then, you know, trim these little edges. And let's see if I can show you how to sew on a handle. So when you go to sew on the handle, you're going to turn under this edge. Now, I say 1/4 inch in the instructions. If that's just too skint for you, then you can add it a little bit more. Handles are completely up to what you want it to be, you know? So, oh, Ray, you're here. Ray, I sent you a message in Instagram, I hope that's okay, of a picture of figs from my farmer's market. So random, I know. Don't even know Ray. Ray and Airpin pals. All right, so I turned under that edge. This one I did a 1/2 inch, right? And I'm gonna go along the folded edge. I like to secure that edge first. I'm gonna sew along the bottom edge, and I'm gonna sew past this turned back edge right here. There's my turned back edge. And enclose it. It'll look much nicer. I kind of did this, I know. I didn't sew that very nicely, but I'm just trying to give you the idea. You want to do a box stitch, and see now it's nice and clean right here. Because if you don't enclose that raw edge right there, no matter what it is, most likely it's going to start doing this. And it'll start doing that on the inside of your bin like that. Have you all seen that before? I hope I didn't make any of you nauseous when I just like suddenly pulled the camera down like that. There we go. So that's what I say. And then when you, I say at least be able to pinch 1/4 inch like this, that much. And that's the minimal amount of slack that you need. So that's my little measurement. You can make this stick out as much as you want, like this. You can make it flat if you want. You can completely make it nice and flat. But if you want a little bit to be able to grab it a little easy, just make sure you can pinch about 1/4 inch. And what I mean by 1/4 inch is, you know, that's what you're pinching there on the handle, right? There's a lot of ways to do this. This isn't, you know, the best way. I just feel like this is the most intuitive way. It makes a lot of sense. You can actually see exactly what you're doing and why. So these are the kinds of things. And just know that there's no rules about this. You just do whatever you want. Your bin is basically, you're making these because they're decorative. They look nice, but they're still functional. So you should make this look the way you want, you know? So. What are dog figs? I don't know what a dog fig is. Did I just say dog fig? All right. So then, yeah, so then our other side. I don't know why I started at the corner. I actually don't really like starting there because I like to start, I think it's, I don't know. You know, I am funny about back tacks. If you're new here, I'm kind of funny about back tacks. I don't like seeing them. And on something like this, you absolutely need it. You can just try and get your stitching in there. Now you can also do the cool, you know, the box, the X through there. Just go over and stitch over what you've already stitched. I love that look, you know, that kind of utilitarian, heavy-duty look, you know. So it's just nice if that's all enclosed in there. I speak about this mainly because a lot of webbings fray like a Dickens. I mean, they are just notorious. I don't know why they became the go-to thing for being something really strong, because they fray like a Dickens, and you have to contain them. You can melt the edges on the synthetics, but there's a lot of webbings out there that aren't synthetic that you can't melt, like any of the cotton ones, you know, like this one on this bin here. You know, this thing frays like a Dickens as well. So this one here, I could melt. I don't like the fumes. We never did that. But this polypropylene or nylon webbing, this just starts happening and it just doesn't stop. A 0 stitch length, so that it just does this. I've never heard that tip before. I mean, if it works for you, go for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, except that, like, I couldn't do that on my machine. A 0 stitch length means you're not moving, and what that would create is a ball of thread. I almost said yarn. A ball of thread to pile up in that one little spot. What I like trying to do in a case like that is try and sink my needle in exactly where the stitches were when I come around to the beginning, so that they're as invisible as possible. If you don't like, my original industrial machine didn't have back stitch. So you always had to sew a little bit, pick up your presser foot, pull your fabric back, and sew on the stitches again. So there'd be this loop of thread underneath, and that was fine too. All right, so let's talk about label holders. I'm realizing that, well, yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna put a label holder on this one here. All right, so this is the collapsible all fabric bin. So let's talk about a couple of different label holders. So the nifty one that has the fabric around it with a little clear window, I mean, come on, that's like, right? It's a little bit of work. So I think it's worth it if you really want that kind of like classy polished look and you want that clear window with the fabric, go for it. I did that on my first few and I really like it. But you don't have to do that, and that's why I gave you just and I'm gonna show you how to do that. I gave you the option to do just a clear one. I have tissue paper behind this so you can see my vinyl. And I'm going to show you 2 ways to do that, and we are going to use some binding. So hold on to your hats. Okay, so in the handle and label holder page, I gave you some dimensions. I don't know if I followed that here, but I gave you dimensions that make a square or a rectangle, right, with the corners. I'm going to round these corners just so you can see that effect like that. And the other thing you can do is you can kind of maybe scoop out your vinyl here, so that it's easy to grab your tag out, or it just kind of has more of a organic shape to it. So let's bind this. All right, please do not dread the binding. Binding is wonderful. All right, so what I like to do when I'm binding these little things is, okay, and here's the thing, remember, nobody's gonna see the back of this, okay? So this is such a great place to practice your binding. If I need to respond to something in chat, you guys need to shout at me a little bit, because I'm just going to try and keep going since I'm not offering this dedicated sewing video for the pattern right now. So, all right, so first thing I do is I like to fold over the top edge just like this, just a little bit, 1/2 inch. This just makes it a little easier at the end when we do our last step. If your vinyl has a right or wrong side, and there are lots of vinyls that do. Start on the wrong side of your vinyl. I like the matte side to be the right side, and one of my vinyls has a rough texture on the back, so I always start on the back of that. All right, so we're gonna go around 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm gonna gently pull my binding a little bit as I go. Now I am not perfectly lined up to my curve, and that is okay. I'm gonna trim it a little bit. Try and stay close to your curve. You can see, because I'm gently pulling, my binding's kind of folding on itself. That's okay. Now when you get about 1 inch away from the top, clip your binding about 1/2 inch past the edge here. See that? 1/2 inch past. Tuck it back and finish off. Okay, so here, this is what mine looks like. I feel like I'm holding like a empanada or something. Wish I was. All right, so this little corner here, while it's close to being my seam allowance, I just know from experience that these curves can be a little finicky, so I'm just gonna trim it a little bit. My seam allowance is about 1/4 inch, so I really want to maintain the 1/4 inch width around the perimeter here. All right, now this is the fun part. So now pull your binding just like this. And you see how mine sits like this because I gently pulled it. Now when I pull it to the front like this, it naturally wants to turn to the right side. It makes it a lot easier, okay? Well, that's Bummer Louise. Okay, so now see how my top is turned down. If you've sewn any of my chicken boots patterns, I always have a little, this is how I do some of the binding, and so you probably know this trick. So now turn down this corner right here, and you want this fold edge to nestle along this raw edge here. It's not going all the way over there. It kind of naturally wants to do that because of the corner of the seam allowance, right? And then I'm going to turn this long raw edge under the 1/4 inch and then turn it one more time. And that's just so that we have a nice, clean little fold right here. If this is too much and you're just like, lady, I just want to bind this thing, just fold it like this. The reason I don't do it like this where I fold is I don't like this poking out the top. See this little edge? It likes to pull out the top. So if I do it like this, just the quick and dirty way, I always get this little piece to pop out the top. So all I'm doing, the only thing I'm doing is I'm just turning down the corner and then I'm turning it as you always do. That's it. I just turn down that corner and then turn it twice. I like using an awl for binding because you know sometimes your binding will want to fall short of the edge, and because it's stretchy I can use that awl and pull it. So that's a really handy thing. Plus it keeps my fingers away from the needle. It's like having a pointy finger that can get really close. And no, I've never broken a needle with it, and I don't think I've ever struck my needle with it. If I have, it hasn't hurt anything. All right, so here we go. You just want to pull that folded edge just past your stitching, just past it, just to cover it up, right? Now tuck in your binding all the way around. It kind of naturally wants to do it. I kind of pull this a little bit with my fingertips if it wants to creep way too far in. I'll show you. Can you see how my fold underneath here? This is my stitching. That's the fold. So if I wouldn't have really wanted to pull it away, then I'd have a lot of extra fabric. I don't really need to do that. No one's going to see this. You know, no one's going to see the back. They're just going to see the front. All right, so let me get back on track here. Let me clip all these threads so I don't make it worse. Now I already have a back tuck there. All right. So we're just gonna, I know this is a pretty in-depth binding thing, but we are gonna be binding a bit, and I think this is a really great place to start. All right, so now we're gonna do the reverse of our little envelope folding technique at the top here. So kind of pull this out, make sure it's nice and folded straight across. And the same thing, fold the corner down, and then fold, fold. Corner, fold, fold. And there you go. Now you have a label holder ready to attach. All right, so now say you don't want the rounded corners. They're kind of get rounded anyway. This one kind of has a right and wrong side, but it's not a big deal. So same thing. We're going to do the exact same thing, except when we get down to these corners, I'm going to kind of, you can pivot. You can just stop 1/4 of an inch shy from the bottom edge, you know, like this. I'll show you the difference. How's that? So we'll pivot. I do this a lot. Just pivot my binding. And this one over here, I can actually kind of round it a little bit. I learned watching sewists do this in a factory, my very first factory that I worked with for chicken boots stuff. And I was like, oh, that's pretty clever. All right, and so same thing, fold your tail back when you get close to the end. If you forget to fold the tail back before you get to the end, that's okay. If your fabric's sticking straight up, now just pull it down and tack it. It's no big deal. Sometimes there's not enough room to do that, so you kind of got to do it afterward. So, okay, so now see, look at, here's our corners. See this? Right? So they're poking out there. You got to trim them a little bit. So just either round them like this. Don't lop off your corner like that, you know. This is not a garment, and I find that when you're doing any binding, you don't need to lop off the corner. What you really want to think of with binding looking really nice is the seam allowance filling it up, right? Because if it's not filling it up and kind of keeping it the width that it is, it looks loose, it kind of is floppy, and it torques a little bit. So just make sure your seam allowance is kind of filling it up. It kind of helps it out. All right, so same thing here, pull down your sides. Which one was the one I pivoted? So this is my pivot corner. I'll show you why I don't really do it that way. I used to. I sometimes still do, but it's in areas where it's not going to do this little quirky thing I don't like. I usually pivot like a lot of on the heavy duty bags that I design. Those I pivot on because it's really kind of, to be honest, it's at that point when you're doing so much heavy duty sewing, and if you've done any of my patterns, you kind of know how heavy duty some of them are. It's just one too many things to deal with, so I pivot. I don't round those corners. It's too many layers of stiffener, fabric, and vinyl. So I feel the same way. So here we go. I don't know if you can see, but there's a right angle right here of stitching. So it goes right here, right? And so when I pull this to the right side and I go to sew it, when I get here, if I wanted to round this, it'd be a little bit slack like this. Like there's just too much fabric right here. And so I end up having to kind of also pivot this, and it just doesn't look as nice. So I used to do that. I used to kind of stretch this out, get to that corner, turn, and pivot. And I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so same thing with the envelope. Fold down your corner, and then fold, fold. So you can see I get this weird little tuck right here when I pivot on corners. It's not a big deal, I know that. But when you're doing large scale and you're doing a lot of stuff, it will start to look a little unprofessional, in my opinion. Okay, so here we go. But look at, I mean, it just has a different look to it. It's kind of cute, you know, it does look a little bit more straight, you know, less rounded. But, you know, you obviously don't have to trim your corners to be rounded if you still want that little rounded look. I actually like the way this one looks a little bit better. It looks like candy. All right, and I'll show you how to attach those in a little bit. So now let's get to this like cream of the crop style, right? All right, so this piece here, see, I'll tell you what I measured mine. I think it's, yeah, 3.5 by, well, that's a weird number. We'll say 2 3/4. So this is 3.5 inches by 2 3/4. This is if you want the little label window on the front with fabric surrounding it, all right? So here's my pattern piece right there, okay? You can make yours any size you want. Just make sure you give yourself a little bit of room because we need to turn back. We need 1/4 of an inch seam allowance around this window. and we need the vinyl to extend beyond it. So the vinyl is going to extend a 1/2 inch around this cut opening. So you don't want that vinyl to stick up past the top of your label holder or something like that, right? So just make sure you give yourself enough room around it. Right now I have 1 inch. So if you decide, you could do that. You could build your label holder by the size window you want. So remember, this window, this is the finished size of my window right here, right? Has a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I have 1 inch going around it to give myself a buffer. There's really not much space around there. It's going to be tight, okay? So the window I have here is, I think, 3/4 of an inch by 1.5 inches. So the window is 3/4 by 1.5. I'm writing it down just in case you need that visual. My vinyl needs to be a 1/2 inch bigger in both directions to this. So my vinyl here, you can see visually, kind of goes 1/2 inch past that, is 1.25. Oh, I'll double check it here. 1.25, right? I'm sorry, 1 3/4. Wait a minute. Yeah. 1 3/4 by 2.5 inches. So this vinyl, the window, is 1 3/4. Would I say 2.5 by 2.5? Okay. All right. So now I have my little circle, my rectangle, traced out on there, and we're going to cut that out. So just cut out your little rectangle window that has 1/4 inch seam allowance. I think this is something I could get better at sewing, and I think like when I started really judging my sewing pretty harshly when I saw the one that was on the bin that I was looking at, the like $5 Target bin out of the junky fabric that I wanted to make a nice version of, and that's where we're at with these bins. But then I realized they were using a fabric that's basically plastic. So when they turn it back and press it, it just sticks and it doesn't fray. So I can't judge myself against that. So if you want to make this a little bit easier to sew, I would interface this, and maybe just interface this before you cut out the window so it's a little easier. And now you're going to clip into each of these corners. So let's pretend you can see my 1/4 inch seam allowance right here. Right? You see my 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to clip diagonally right into that corner. Don't be shy. Go all the way into that corner. Okay? All right. So now we have our little window. Let's go to the iron, and we're going to press this back. I don't think my iron's quite on yet. You can, even if you're at your sewing machine and you're a quilter and you have like those little rollers, you could just do that. I use a little antique iron sometimes for that because I don't have one of those fancy rollers. But you can see why you would want the interfacing around this, and that's so that these little corners don't fray. That'll help a little bit. A lot of calcium deposits on my ironing pad. All right, so get this nice and prepped. If you have this nice and prepped, the next step's pretty easy. And you want to make sure that these are straight, so your window looks straight. Right? But you can see, if you can see this little black dot, that is my fabric wanting to fray. With this yarn dye, that is definitely a possibility. Okay. So, and we also have a hem, but I'm not going to worry about that quite yet. I didn't give myself much of a hem, did I? Kind of like a welt pocket. Kind of like sewing a welt pocket with a zipper. All right, so center your vinyl back there. You could probably tack it with a little bit of glue. That might be a little bit easier. Now you're gonna edge stitch it on. I'm gonna use my hand wheel to get right on that edge, and I'm also gonna try and keep it nice and square. See if I can poke this little frayed bit trying to fray. One of the drawbacks to using yarn dyes. I'm feeling like I could have been a little more generous with my top hem. I think I remember figuring that out when I did this, and then I never went back and fixed my pattern piece. So maybe make your top hem a little bit taller. So here we have our window, right? We just need to hem this. Yep, exactly, Louise. We didn't see what I did. Oh, was my iron not centered? I'm so sorry, you guys. Ooh, and I got that pretty crooked. Look at that. Yes, I did. Oh, do I have another piece of fabric? I'm sorry, you guys. Yes, so I turned back the edge and I pressed it. That's all I did. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Where is my camera not on the ironing board? What the heck? Do you want me to show you again? I'm happy to show you again. Let me just find a piece of fabric. I've got to have a piece of fabric around here somewhere, right? Let's see here. I literally keep nothing over here except cut pieces. Oh, here we go. There we go. Here's our sleeve. Yeah, so. Yeah, luggage tags. You could totally do that. Exactly. All right, so I made my window. I cut it out. I have to swivel my computer to be able to see what I look like on camera, and I took it for granted. Sorry, guys. All right, so here we go. Clip into these corners. I'll swivel the camera or the monitor so I can see. So where was I? Was I right here? I was right here. Oh, wait, the camera's not on. Oh. There we go. Okay. Yay, okay. Sorry, guys. I probably, when I restarted the stream, it deactivated the camera. Sorry about that. The iron camera always does that. Okay, so yeah. I turned back this edge. I'm not doing as good of a job this time, but I just want you guys to get the idea. I obviously didn't give myself much seam allowance there either, did I? Try and keep your window square and straight. It doesn't look like mine is right now, but it will be when I go to sew it. Make sure. So you got your little window there. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. Okay, so let's see. So now, I don't have any vinyl. Yeah, I do vinyl. Ah, here we go. Piece of vinyl here. That I'm going to follow my 1 3/4 by 2 1/2. Oh, I don't like tracing on tiny things. It's very small. 1 3/4 by 2 1/2, huh? Ah, okay. I was like, that was gonna be a square. It's because I forgot I was doing 1 3/4 both ways. Okay. Yeah, no problem, you guys. I'm sorry about that. That iron cam always gives us issues. If you have too many cameras hooked up to your computer, it doesn't let you like broadcast all of them. So you got to kind of do some workarounds. All right, so now here we go. Let's see if I can do it straighter this time. Line it up, and you know, I have this glue that I've learned in quilting. Have you ever seen me use glue on camera? You know, I'm not a big fan of it. But you could use also washi tape, and washi tape is like a tape that doesn't, it's a paper tape that is removable and doesn't stick, leave gum or anything behind. You could also do that. Just stick your washi tape to keep it straight like that, right? All right, so now I'm gonna edge stitch it on. That's so nice having a washi tape hold it, honestly. I wish I thought of that tip sooner. Get this a little straighter. All right, and then I just remove my washi tape. Pretty good, huh? The wedding ring is always backwards. Okay, so now we have our window. So if you want to sew on your handle and your label holder, if you want to do that, you need to do it now before you start sewing your bin bins. We're about to finally start sewing the bin bins together, okay? What are you guys looking for? Oh yeah, you can buy big grommets. You know who had a tutorial with something that had grommets was a Noodle Head. So I think she might sell them. Or that bag maker, Emmeline Bags if you're in Canada. Pretty sure. Yeah, I didn't even sew over the washi tape, but if you do sew over the washi tape, yeah, it'll just rip off. It's totally fine. Washi tape just doesn't leave residue. It's really great. I discovered it through friends, and I used it a lot in knitting to hold my place in a pattern on the pattern holder we had. It was really handy. So, two-sided tape, that'll work. This is not something you're going to be washing, so feel free to just use what you have, you know. Binder clip. I mean, you could try using clips, but it's just sometimes too far away from your edge. All right, so you need to hem this, and like I said, I really don't feel like I gave myself much of a hem here. Sorry. Should have fixed that pattern piece. I forgot that I hadn't really fixed it. You could serge that edge and then fold it back. Oh yeah, that looks pretty bad. Sorry, you guys. I'm not using that because I want this on my bin. So, yeah, maybe I'll run it through the serger real quick. If you don't have a serger, I would give yourself a lot more of a hem allowance. I just saw that pattern piece sitting next to my computer because I was going to use it, and I just grabbed it last second because I was kind of late trying to get ready. My bad. Give yourself more of a hem allowance. You don't need as much around the perimeter because you're only going to be turning it under once. But depending on how you want to do this hem up here, give yourself more space. So what I could do is I could bind it, right? Binding solves everything. It really does. It solves all your problems. Your girlfriend hasn't called you in a while? Binding, right? You want to lose a few pounds? Binding. Binding solves everything, I'm pretty sure. All right, so I could bind the edge, or I could just face it. So I think I'm gonna face the edge here so that now I have a hem allowance. I'm a kind of a MacGyver on solutions on the fly. Ah, you forgot the exclamation point. Okay, so here we go. Now I've created myself a facing. I'm gonna understitch it, and now I can just make this a little bit narrower so I have a little bit of room to hem. Like that. Didn't change it too much. Let's try and get it nice and parallel to that window this time. Okay. So there we go. I don't know why did my start stop there. We all know how I feel about that. Okay. So here is the, this is going to be the collapsible all fabric bin. If you're making a collapsible bin, this is how you're going to sew it as far as the bottom goes. And if you're making an all fabric bin, this is how you're also going to be sewing the top half of the bin. So binding, yeah, binding is definitely, binding and watermelon are the solutions to pretty much everything. Sometimes black licorice, sometimes peanut M&Ms, sometimes ice cream. If you have a few pounds to lose, I'd stick with the watermelon and the binding only. Okay, so here we have our all fabric outer body piece. We have our notches right here. So this is the front. It's the side, back, front. Okay. I'm going to give myself a little crease so that I know where the center is of my bin, like that. Now, some of the guides I give you in the pattern tell you about how far you want it down from the top edge. Obviously, with a bin that's only 4 inches tall, you're going to have to use your own discretion, right? So you're going to do this just on your outer fabric layer. And I'm going to start upside down. No, I'm not actually. I'm not going to do this like it's a back pocket. I'm just going to do this straight with no angle reinforcement along the top edge. There we go. We're just going to turn it under and hem it. If you want to pin it down, you can pin it down, but all right, make sure you leave yourself, you're going to need room for binding here and a seam allowance here. I'm just going to pin this kind of away from the turn under spot right there. I like pinning pockets so that I don't have to remove the pins as I go, but I sometimes do. So turn under that top edge there. If your window's crooked, it's gonna look crooked when you sew it on. It's kind of the nature of the beast. But I promise you won't notice it when you're using it, and I don't know, it kind of gives it a rustic charm. That's our new adjective. Rustic. And there we go. Now we have our label holder. Oh my gosh, Jackie, that is definitely a cure-all. I totally agree with you. Haberdashery, right? I love that word, haberdashery. Okay, so now we have the pocket on the front of this. So if you want to do your handle, I would do it wherever you want. I mean, it could be coming out the bottom of your label holder and your binding. You can do the bigger, more formal handle like we were sewing earlier. Okay, so I want to get my sewing instructions out so that I kind of follow those along the way I wrote them, because I can tend to do things in a different order. All right. All right, so we're doing the all fabric, so I'm on step 2. All right, so we're gonna sew our outer body and our lining together, right sides together. So you're gonna do your outer body first, along the C edge, you know, your height edge. And same with your lining. So put this, you're making your outer body and your lining body into a circle. I'm going to press this open. You can finger press it, but honestly, I think you're really going to want this to be pressed really well because we're going to stitch through that seam later on. This is one of our corners right here. All right, don't iron your label holder. You can, your vinyl can take some heat, but not prolonged direct iron contact. All right, so that's that one. Okay, now you're gonna stick the lining inside, line up that seam that you just sewed. All right, so just stick it in there. Line up your seam, just like this. Now you're going to stitch all of the pockets for your stiffener. So everywhere you put a notch, you're going to stitch straight from the top edge to the bottom edge. You don't need to back tack. In fact, I don't recommend it because it may look a little messy if you can see your back tack kind of poking above the binding or below the binding. So, all right, so I'm going to do my seam first. You're just stitching straight down, so keep the other side of your bin out of the way. You're going to see why I picked small ones for my sample because it's a lot faster, less sewing. Now remember, if you didn't cut it so that your notches are opposite from your lining, just go by the side that is the one you want. This is, I put a little like V notch on this one because that just signifies that it's not a corner. It's not absolutely necessary to make that distinction, but it just kind of just keeps you knowing where you're at on this thing. Those pockets are smaller because that's the collapsible side. All right, two more. For the collapsible, if you're not making a collapsible one, you're not going to be doing the stitching on this sides that's halfway between the front and the back. You're only doing. All right, so let's assess. We have the front of our bin here. We have the sides, 2 pockets. If it's collapsible, you have 2 pockets. If it's non-collapsible, there's no stitch line here. And then you have the back, and here's another side, right? So this is the beginning of our bin right here. Okay, so now I think we set this aside now. This is collapsible. Okay, now we're going to sew the bottom on. Set your stiffener aside. You don't really need that right now. So here's your bottom, and we're going to sew this the wrong side of the bottom to the inside of the body, so the lining side, right? Just like this. And you're going to match up your short edge to your short edge, your long edge to your long edge, or your front to your front, your side to your side, your back to your back, that kind of thing, right? So this is, on the collapsible, is pretty easy because it's still nice and floppy, right? We don't have the stiffener in here yet. This is where we're cutting our teeth on our binding. And I need to decide, I think I'm going to use the knit as my binding. And I'm trying to find it. Here we go. I think I have enough here. All right, so don't start on a corner. You're going to start on the bottom, all right? So here we have it. Here's my bin. It's upside down. This is the top edge, right? And I'm putting the bottom on just like this. And I'm going to stay away from the corners when I start. So take your bottom and put it 1/4 of an inch past the stitching that you did at the corner there, like that. That's how you're going to center it, right? Just like that. And just start somewhere, wherever you want, but just don't start in a corner. It's too easy. It's too tricky, I mean. And fold back a corner, edge of your binding like this. Just fold back like 3/4 of an inch when you start and lay it down. Right side to the bottom of your bottom. This, if this was a print, this would be right side up right now. All right, and we're gonna go around, and when I get to this corner here, I'm gonna stop about 1/4 of an inch away, or on, you know, pretty much on the stitching line that's underneath on the body. And now I'm gonna pivot. So I'm gonna pull this piece and I'm gonna line it up with the next edge. Don't pull too much. It's pretty stretchy right now. And then line up your next corner. So this is going 1/4 of an inch past that next corner, just like that. Now pull your bias, same thing, pivot. And try and stick to that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. You don't want to lose any height to your bin because the stiffener still needs to slip into our pockets, and they were perfectly measured for that. All right, so now 1/4 of an inch away, or you know, at that stitching line there, you're going to pivot again. So pull this side over here, and I have to kind of put my finger in there and smooth it out at the corner. Get it to line up, pivot my binding. I kind of pull this like this, make sure it's all nice and smooth. And we're on the bottom of our bin. No one's going to see this, all right? So don't worry too much. That's why we end on the other side, because that's the side we can control how it looks. So same thing, stop about 1/4 of an inch away, pivot. We're getting close to where we started. This is when you get a little nervous, I know, because you're like, oh gosh, am I going to run out of space? Am I going to have too much? And you know, if you're lining up your corners, it's going to be just fine. The fabric's pretty stretchy probably, so you can kind of, you know, ease it in there if you need to. But most likely, if you did all your math and you've kept your seam allowances, you're going to be just fine. So don't overcompensate. All right, and it's a little tricky when you're getting close to that, right? So just pivot. I'm putting my hand in there and smoothing it out through the edge I'm sewing. Pivot my binding. And now here I am at the beginning. I'm gonna go just past where I folded it back. And I'm gonna trim it to match that folded back edge. Just like that. Okay. Just needs to go past the fold. Yeah, this is way easier than the project bag. Promise. If you're nervous about it, if you're sewing the project bag and you're like, oh, that was okay, but I don't know if I want to go down that road again, it's not like that. All right, so let's look at our seam around here. Now, if you want, you can look inside and go, okay, how did I do? You know, like, look at this little guy. He's pretty cute. Oh my God, this thing is, I actually want to get into now making tiny bin bins. All right, so now look at that. And then at these corners here, let's just trim this little corner to kind of be more in line with the binding. You keep your 1/4 inch seam allowance best you can. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just get rid of this little bit that's winging off here like that. Okay, I'm kind of flattening it out. If you don't, it's just a little bit more bulk in there when you go to sew it. All right, so now we're going to do our last step of the binding on the bottom. We're going to pull the binding like that. So now it's sitting there, right? So we have our bin, see? Nice and flat. Here's the bottom. And I like to, you know, I like to push my corners out like this, first of all. Push your corners out. And I like to start sewing just behind my fold. I like to kind of get my sewing legs under me as I approach this mess right here, right? This is still easier than seaming your binding together. I know there's a few of you that probably like to do that, and that's totally fine. You can do that. It's just not necessary for this unless you really, or if that's the way you do it, you do that. Go for it. That is beautiful. It's just, you know, don't have to do it that way if you don't want. All right, so then before I get to this little spot here, kind of turn it under, and I go just past that stitch line. It's really obvious on this fabric, right? So I want that fold to cover up that stitch line. I'm going to put it under the machine. I'm going to start sewing, and now I'm arranging. I'm using the machine as like a helping hand to help me with this binding step here. So I like to fold under the corner when I'm this close. I like to fold it under now. Now, this isn't going to be like the project bag where it's probably going to stay like that, because the tension of the project bag and all of those thicknesses kind of help it. But you're not going to need as much help when you get there, so that's okay. So now let's start smoothing this out. I start with this one here, fold it under, and then I smooth this one out and fold it under. Where's my awl? Got my awl. And then we're going to just start sewing. So just make sure that fold is just past that stitch line. And when I get to these corners, I actually pull it so that it's straight. And I'm making sure none of these layers underneath are getting caught back under there. Keep it flat. Pivot at your corner. Now, if you don't do this perfectly, don't sweat it. It's gonna be fine. Just make sure you're not going past, stitching past that stitch line. Just stitch right on top of it if you can, because remember, we need the room in these pockets for the stiffener. If your stiffener sticks out the top a little bit, it's gonna be fine. You can trim it off, okay? Don't worry about it, okay? Yes, exactly. I know. I'm thinking I might give this to my daughter because she needs some organizational bins in her bathroom. Her bathroom now doesn't fit all the stuff she had before. So just continue along and see when I get to something, when I get to my next corner, I actually push this out like that. Flatten it out. Push that out away, right? And now fold. Now this is one of those binding corners where we're actually pivoting like we did on the label holder. And I showed you the difference between pivoting and rounding it. I pivot here. This is a good example of when I pivot. If this were a flat needle case, I would round it. But on a corner, it's not a big deal. I pivot. Now, if your corner doesn't line up perfectly with your stiffener pocket, it's not the end of the world. Don't worry about it. This is your first one, right? So let's continue going around. I think it's good to know where you can kind of fudge and where you can't, right? And I'm going to be here to tell you that. All in all, I think as long as you're not doing a lot of fudging all along the way, it's going to be fine. All right, we made it around. Okay, so now we have, look at that. You're almost there. Okay, so let me see. What's your next step here? Yeah, okay, I know this. Just making sure. I just don't want to do it out of order. All right, so now get all your stiffener pieces. I kind of left the little tags on mine. Trim off all that ink. That little bit of ink right there is the difference between it fitting and not fitting. I didn't allow very much wiggle room, right? Okay, so these bigger ones are my front and back in this case. And you'll know on the collapsible, your front and your back are going to be the same size, and then you're going to have 4, and those are for your sides. Okay, so I put it in here, and I push it down. Now, I need my box of clover clips. I have finally found an indispensable use for clover clips, and it is making a bin. I find it to be a lot easier. Really push this in here. Now, I'm going to tell you, on the bigger bins, getting this stiffener in here is almost the hardest part of this. So if you're sitting there going, why doesn't it slide in? I've been there. It's easy on mine because it's so little, and I can really, you know, have a lot of more leverage over it than it does over me. Now I pull the fabric up. I really want to get this thing seated in there really well. So line up your top edge. And what I like to do is I like to do the corners first. And then if I need one in the middle, I'll do one in the middle. But really pull it. Like really pull it. Okay? As long as it's not buckling, it's okay. Yeah, sure, Ray. So when you're on corners like that, obviously a corner is a squared shape, right? So let me see if I can show it on here. So if this is the corner, right? when I'm sewing around and I'm pivoting, I'm getting to the corner and I pivot hard corner, right? But when I'm rounding, I sometimes come around and then I do this. I do like stitch, stitch, and then go on. So it's a little softer, right? So this is the hard corner where I pivot, and then this one I'm kind of rounding it, and I just do a couple stitches, or you know, whatever, however big that piece is, and that's why. And then that way when I go to sew it, you know, it's a little bit like this one right here is the rounded one, and right, and this one's the pivoted one. So when I pivot though, what happens is the fabric will buckle on itself because there's too much on this inner edge compared to the outer edge. Whereas the rounded one, it's a little more parallel. This measurement doesn't vary as greatly to this measurement as this one does. Is that helpful? I only talk about it because when you're new at binding things like this, pivoting is kind of the easier way to do it because you're already managing so much. You're already like, my machine wants to do this, my binding wants to go this way, my bag wants to go that way, my lining's nowhere to be found. So it's kind of just like, I'm just going to pivot because it's kind of like what you can manage it in that moment. Or rounding it just doesn't have a whole lot of like promise for anything, like the extra work doesn't really make the difference, you know? So I mention it because there is like a nicer way to do it, and you might be kind of tempted to do it, especially if you're a quilter and you're kind of practiced at that. I like to show the difference between the two. So I'm kind of pulling my bin like this along the front, getting that seated in there really good. I can tell my stiffener's probably not going to go down any further because it looks like I kind of came into this a little bit more. Like my binding came into the bin a little bit more, but that's okay. That's okay if it sticks up. Just make sure it's nice and taut in there. That's all. That's only my point. What mistyped? What's a misspell? Someone else mistyped that. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so then here are your sides. Look how little they are. Mine are. You're going to stick those in your pockets as well. If you don't have clover clip, you can use binder clips. You can use pins too, but you might find it a little easier to clip it. If you can't clip it, I would just tack it with your sewing machine, and I would do it from the inside like this. It's a little easier. This is actually the worst mine's ever lined up before. It's probably because I used a fat, big Sharpie to cut it out. All right, so just go around. Funk and better above. I don't see that. Am I not seeing all the chat? I wonder if I'm not seeing all the chat. Okay. Look at it standing up. Yay. Pretty excited. Oh, look at how nice that went in there. Ooh, hubba hubba. Don't you just love it when a plan comes together? Ooh. Okay, apparently. I bet those are the two I trimmed right before we started, and I didn't trim the others. Okay. So now I think that if you want the easiest time in binding this last step, I think you should stitch the perimeter right at the top. Stick really close to your fabric edges and try and stick inside the seam allowance. And you can mash this. It's going to be okay. Just try not to pop off any of your clover clips or whatever you used. I have too much stuff now. This is when stuff goes flying off your table, so make room and so you don't lose anything. If you get a few tucks in there, don't sweat it. It's okay. I say that like I'm mad at you. Oh, okay. I know, it's so cute. I have a feeling that when I make the rainbow one, I'm gonna hear from one Laura Jean Kelly of Knitted Wit, because that's her yarn in that fabric. I see she's been making or wearing a mask out of that fabric. It's really cute on her. I have that yarn fabric on my Society 6, and I sent her a bath mat or a welcome mat as a homewarming gift. So she's got a yarn welcome mat. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just sewing on the perimeter. Sorry, I got started talking, but yeah, this is how I do it. I just sew on the perimeter. I'm re-sewing this right now just so you can see. But when I get to these corners, yes, it gets a little fiddly. Just try and get it under there and then keep going. I say sew from the inside because sewing from the outside is a little harder. You're gonna have to do that for the last binding step, but it'll be easier because the whole bin's already been secured and sewn together. And when you do it from the inside, you can kind of see everything and you know the rest of the bin's not gonna get caught underneath. And I have a really good knack for that because I don't have a free arm. If you have a free arm and you can just put this around the bed of your machine and sew, yeah, I'm jealous. Go for it. You don't need to do it inside out like I just did. All right, so now let's trim up this top edge. So you can see my stiffener is a little hanging out above that. Sometimes it works perfect, sometimes it doesn't. It's all in the nature of how accurate I was when I was cutting it and sewing it. And all those little like 1/16 of an inch really kind of start stacking up when you're inaccurate. And it's a really good example of that precise thing of being imprecise. All right, let's get rid of that. So we got my nice clean top edge. Let's get rid of some of these threads here. It's so cute. Look at it, it's so cute. Okay. Put my clover clip thingy away. All right, so now we're gonna bind this. You can do it. And again, I would start at the back of your bin. Don't start at the front and center. And we're going to start, I got threads everywhere. We're gonna start from the inside and work our way to the outside since that'll be the last edge. And so I'm gonna mash this. It's gonna be okay, I promise you. Unless you have a fabric that maybe has a lot of texture or gets wrinkled, but you could safely iron this. Even the stiffener can be ironed afterward. These are technically washable, you just don't need to probably. So, but they are washable. So I like to start from the inside so that we finish and just mash. It doesn't want to mash as well because the bottom's not stiff, but it will. So just keep it like that. If you want to put your label in, I would do that now and kind of stick it under the binding. I haven't done that on any of mine, so maybe I'll try that right now. I'm going to put it on the back, just like that. And when you get around your corners, don't worry about it. This is one long straight edge. There are no corners to pivot. You've already done all the pivoting that you have to do on the body of the bin. You're going to do a little pivoting on the insert, but it's really easy. So this is just one long straight edge, remember? Try and keep it all nice and lined up. The stiffener does, you know, fight you a little bit. Same thing at the beginning. I've turned it back an inch, and then we're going to take the binding and go all the way up to that cut edge, just like that. Oh, look at this is how the binders made my binding. All right, so let's look at this edge and see if we need to trim any of it. Did I get off a little bit? Like when I get to my corners, look at, I got a little wiggly So you got a little wiggly right there. I'm going to cover that up. And look, I kind of swung out a little bit. Bad ceremony. It doesn't look like that on this side, but it does on this side. So let's just look at our edge here. Make sure nothing's poking up really, you know, more than that 1/4 inch seam. Now we're going to do the last stitch. Ah, Andy, thank you. That's awesome. All right, so here we go. You're really going to want to mash it. It's going to be okay, I promise. It's going to bounce back, okay? So just mash it out of the way. You're going to turn under this long edge just before that join there. I have this hump here and I'm trying to get over it. So now if you're really picky about how your binding looks on the other side, you might see it, right? Because you're going to be looking across the bin, but you're not. It's going to be full of, you know, I don't know, cotton candy, so you're not going to see it, right? So just make sure this fold is covering up that first line of stitching. So here we are at my beginning. I'm going to fold this layer first, and I always kind of generously fold that one. So this one will wrap around it, just like that. Tuck it all in there. Make it do what you want. Put that fold line just past your original stitch line and stitch it down. All right. Okay, so here we go. Almost there. And then we're going to do the clear front one. What are these threads here? So when I get to my corners, because there's no stiffener in there, it's a little slack and it kind of wants to be lazy, right? So I'm just going to pull it down and make sure I keep this nice straight edge here. It's also smoothing out some of my little bumpy sewing when I first attached the binding. Here's another one. See, I kind of push it and kind of straighten it up a little bit. I'll bet you're going to see my line on the inside because I was a little wibbly wobbly when I started that, or when I did the first pass. So if you're doing a really big bin, this is going to be a little bit of a workout when you're mashing this down. So definitely take breaks in between. Did I run out of bobbin? Mother trucker. Ran out of bobbin. Okay. Always, right? When you have 3 inches left. Carry on. All right, so the last part we have for this one will be our insert. My start stops always do a little bit of thread there. Okay. Now, see, this is so cute. I think this thing's funny. Okay, so here's our insert. Your stiffener, your lining pieces. You're going to put all of these wrong sides together like a sandwich. So and make sure there's no threads between your stiffener and your lining because you'll feel that little bump. I mean, you know, it's a bin, it's not a garment, but still. So then lay this down here, line up all your edges. They should be all the same. If you're doing the insert, here we go. And just tack this around the edges. Just at least, this is what I do. I do like one corner like this. I don't even turn the corner. So I just did that, you know, little stitch right here, here, here. Get rid of this thread. And now we're gonna bind this. Doesn't matter what side you start on with this because it's going to be pushed into your bin. I didn't get my label holder on very straight. Turn back your binding, and here's a good example of how I'm probably going to round the corners a little bit. I'm kind of pulling my binding a tiny bit, So I just do 2 diagonal stitches on that corner. You can pivot, it's fine. Make sure all your threads and everything are pushed toward the seam allowance. Whoops. When that happens, I don't find that it's actually detrimental. You see how my binding just folded back on itself? It ends up being fine on the right side. So I don't need to fix it. All right, so let's round these corners a little bit, trim up my edge, make sure that I'm maintaining the seam allowance. I feel like I say the same things to you over and over, but they're really important. So, Christmas presents, yes, absolutely. You could even fill them with cookies. Right, Nancy? Exactly. So that's when you need to know, oh shoot, things are going well, I'm in a groove. Check the bobbin. Okay, so now we pull the binding to the other side. The knit print's a little bit of a stretch for this, isn't it? But it's kind of the same colors, and I'm getting low on binding. All right, and then put your fold line just past that first row of stitching you did. I get to be a guest poster on the Sew Over 50 Instagram soon, and I've been trying to decide like what I want to post about, and I think I'm going to do binding. I feel like it's the one thing we can all get something out of, and I feel like maybe you guys should tell me if I explain it well enough, you know? I just used it to, I have like one of those dish mats to soak up water by the sink, and it was too big, so I cut it in half and I rebound around the perimeter. Now it's actually more attractive and the right size, you know? It's like useful for so many things. Like I'm telling you, binding is the world's issue. We could solve COVID with binding, I'm pretty sure. Okay. I am getting low, Nancy. Shush. All right, so here we go. Moment of truth. Put your little insert in there. There we go. And when your insert's not in there, you can easily collapse it up. The only thing about making a bin that is this short is that your little thing can't fit inside there as like hidden, you know? But then if you make a bin to hold all of your little bins, that works. Yeah, they were looking for guest posters, if that's what you guys are talking about. And I just said, I'd be interested, but I'm not 50 yet. I'm almost there. My label holder is a little not centered. How did I do that? Did I not pick the right... Heck, I don't know how I did that. But it happens. So this looks pretty cute. Alright, so let's make one more. We're going to make a clear front bin, and it's going to be non-collapsible. So this would be the all fabric collapsible, and if you're sewing the clear front collapsible, you would pick up all these steps once you have your body assembled with the clear piece in there, and then you carry on with the rest of it. So it's rustic. Yes, we like rustic. Look at this. Some little sewing supplies. Oh, I never taught you how to put this label holder on, but I'll put it on this next one. And I need this, don't do that. Chronic organizer. Okay. I just dropped something. Hope not. I know, the succulent fabric's pretty good. Wait, what's next? A bin of bin bins. Yeah, I have one of those. What was I about to say? That succulent fabric is at my local fabric store. Honey Run. I know they don't have a website like where they sell fabric, but you can call them up. Any of the things you see. They don't sponsor me or anything, but they'd appreciate it. I think they love that I buy fabrics that have been sitting on their shelf for years. I don't have a thing about like what's the hippest thing, you know. All right, so here we go. We have our clear front bin, and let me get oriented here with my pattern pieces here. So these are my sides. You're gonna have 2 pieces of stiffener that are the same size for your sides. You're gonna have a back, not a front, because the front of the vinyl is going to be your piece of stiffener. All right, and so we have our bottom, lining, and stiffener, and these stiffener is smaller. And then you have your left and your right. Now, I know I could have made this pattern piece much simpler by just putting this on the fold back there. Not on the fold, but one piece. But I just wanted it to look like the collapsible. So I'm sure clever people have already figured that out. All right, so here we go. My front and my side are different sizes, so I'm just kind of making sure that this is, I can kind of tell that that's my side, all right? Or my right? Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is my side, yeah, okay. I was like, wait a minute, this is my back, this is it, okay. Ooh, I just got lost in the sauce. All right, my back is narrower. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're going to sew the clear front to the body and the lining. Random question, and does that go with high-waisted pants and skirts? Anyone have a favorite? Bow top. Yeah, reusable gift. This is the labor-intensive wrapping paper. You guys are yeah, right, exactly. Bin with a matching mask. That would be Laura Jean. Like, she has a mask in this fabric. It's pretty cute. You guys are I want to be your friends. Those are nice Christmas gifts. Same with the closet core floor poof pattern. I want to make those. But I don't want to have to give them fabric scraps of stuff. I don't have enough, you know? Okay, so one thing, if you wanted to make this just a contrast front with fabric, maybe you have like a quilt square that you want to feature, that would be really cute. And you don't want it to be raw edges or the wrong side of the fabric on the inside of the bin. Just cut 2 of these and put them wrong sides together and treat it as one for this next step. Yeah, wait. Yeah, wait. Oh, the closet, the Callie shirt dress. Yeah, that one you actually can make that shorter. It has pretty long vents on the side. Oh, I don't know the Ashton. What about the Montrose? Wait, that's kind of long, isn't it? No, you guys are good with the. You guys are fine. You don't need me. Okay, so here you go. We're gonna do with this little one first. So, put your vinyl right sides together to the outer body. Put your lining right sides together here. So you have a sandwich, right? So your lining and your outer fabric are right sides together with the vinyl in between, okay? It's very logical. So don't get lost in the sauce here. So 1/4-inch seam. I just lost it. There we go. 1/4-inch seam. And now you're going to open it up. And I like to edge stitch this edge, but make sure you stay very close. So pull this fabric pretty taut and edge stitch. You still need room for your stiffener in here, so just don't go too crazy with the top stitching there, okay? All right, so now do the same exact thing with the other side. Right sides together. And make sure that you're putting your outer body on the same side, so you don't have lining on the outside on one side and the other fabric on the inside, the outer fabric. All right, so same thing. Do 1/4-inch seam. Open it out. Top stitch. All right, and now you're going to sew it all together to make your outer body. So put your outer body pieces together. Sew those in a 1/4-inch seam. put your lining together. 1/4 inch seam. So now look, you have this weird looking thing here. I should have ironed my lining, apparently. I love that you guys all know these options for Sydney. Okay, so now we're gonna press this seam right here, same as on the collapsible, and then we're pretty much, from what I can remember, pretty much gonna stick to now a lot of the sewing that was on the other one. The only difference is the bottom. Just keep your vinyl out of the way. Open this up. Now at least I can press these. I'm going to pull this so taut against the stiffener, but I have found in my experience that no matter how good I am at that, it still shows my wrinkles. So I'm going to take advantage of this right now and iron this. You know, and if you guys get vinyl in the mail and it's a little wrinkled when you get it, you can iron it. I don't know how people ship vinyl. Incidentally, the fabric store, that one I mentioned earlier, Honey Run, they have the vinyl I use and the stiffener I use. I know I've never said that before, but okay, so you got your seams open here, right? All right, so now you're gonna put the lining on the inside, wrong sides together, all of it, just like this. Okay. I kept my, okay, I thought for a second there one of my dandelions was upside down. All right, so now we're gonna stitch the stiffener channels, and you're only gonna need to do, I think, 2. If I remember correctly. Keep your other side out of the way. Make sure your vinyl doesn't sneak under there because it's kind of hard to see sometimes. Oh no, you have your seam right here. Yeah, so there's just 2. Because the seams with the vinyl are 2 corners. So here's 2 corners and here's 2 corners right here. All right, so now all of your pockets are sewn. Now we're gonna do our bottom. This one's a lot faster to sew and takes less fabric. So if you don't need collapsible bins, I highly recommend doing the non-collapsible, whether you do clear front or all fabric. Okay, so I'm just trimming up my stiffener. Now this is just going to float in here. You don't want it to be into the seams. And I like to stitch it in there, make it like a pillow. So just stitch around the perimeter, just like this. Don't catch the stiffener. You can move it out of the way if you need to. But if you stay right close to the edge, it shouldn't get in the way. If it does and your presser foot starts jumping onto it, just kind of push it off to the side. Ooh, I'm getting a little bit of a tuck there. That'll be okay. All right, so now we have our bottom, and we're going to treat it as one layer. And now, again, we're doing the exact same thing we did originally, where we're putting the lining to the lining, or the inside of the bottom to the bottom. You're going to line up your short ends to your short ends, your long ends to your long ends, or your fronts to your fronts, your side to your side. Bye, Jackie. Nice to see you. All right, and we're going to bind this. I'm going to start at the back here. Oh, I didn't put on my label holder. Oh my gosh. So here you're going to see me do it without putting it. This thing is gigantic though. Maybe I could cut this down. It's a pretty big label holder. Maybe I'll show you on some scrap. Do I have some scrap here? Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you how to do it. So this is pretty self-explanatory, I'm sure. This was in the garbage, but I still feel funny getting rid of this. We sewed a shirt sleeve placket the other day when we did the men's Fairfield button-up. So when you go to sew the clear label holder on, you're going to just edge stitch around the perimeter. It's that easy. Back stitch, keep it on there nice and flat. I use my whole hand to kind of keep it nice and flat as I go around, and back stitch at the top. And that's it. That's how you put this label holder on. Okay? All right. Let's put the bottom on. I have my binding here. So I actually have, like, do I do rainbow binding or the sprinkles? Let me think. I think I'm gonna do the sprinkles. Oh, so you get to reuse, Jackie. Okay, that's great. That's a good gift to yourself. Okay, so I think I'm gonna use the sprinkles as a contrast. I like sewing this fabric more. This is probably Art Gallery or Cloud 9. Shoot, I don't know, but it's a nice poplin. As opposed to the Spoonflower poplin, which is an awesome fabric, but once it's printed, it gets a little bit stiffer. It's a little harder to use. All right, so let's see. Where's the bottom edge? This is the bottom right here. Lining sides together. And again, I'm going to start away from the corner. I'm going to start on the bottom like this, okay? So this is my bottom, this is my bin. I'm going to start on the bottom side. Quarter-inch seam. If you catch the stiffener in there, it's okay. It's just a little trickier to sew. You might find it pushes your presser foot away a little bit. So it's okay, but I made it intentionally smaller so you don't actually need to sew through the stiffener. It doesn't need to go all the way through the seam. That would be a nice, sturdy bin to have, but it's just not necessary. With the sides having stiffener in there, it would be overkill. All right, so same thing. Look at that. Our bottom is going to extend 1/4 inch past the corner right there. So I'm going to pivot right there. It's right here. If I'm lining up, I line up all these edges. That's my pivot point right there at that corner. So get your bottom out of here. Make sure all your layers are nice and smooth. I actually run my fingers like this up to the presser foot and make sure nothing's folded in there. Just be really careful you don't have your foot on the pedal. Okay, pivot at that corner. We're on the vinyl side, and since the vinyl is not coming in contact with your presser foot, you shouldn't have any problems with drag. Occasionally, the vinyl will create some drag on the throat plate, but it's less common. And if it's really common with your machine, it just might be the kind of material that your throat plate is made out of, and you can get a Teflon plate sometimes. I have one, and I've never used it. Like, it came with it, and then once I broke that throat plate, because I've broken many, I didn't get another one. I prefer having a Teflon presser foot if I really need something like that, and I don't actually need it with the vinyl I'm currently stocking. So, all right, so if you start this in a little closer over here, you don't have to deal with this such a tight spot here. I always forget because I'm thinking of it inside out, but if you start back here rather than so close to the corner, it might be a little easier. All right, so when I am that close, I'm gonna take this body and I'm gonna kind of straighten it out in front of me like this, try and get that corner right on top of it so I can see it. Pivot. And see, I push my fabric that way. It's smoothing it all out so that I'm not stitching on it. Go up to that folded back spot. Trim it flush. And there we have our bottom on there. I'm going to trim these corners a little bit, just round them a little bit. Release some of those taut folds that get created when you're sewing these. I don't know why I'm using these really small scissors. They're super sharp. They're working, but they always make me nervous. The rainbow fabric I'm using is a canvas, so it's a little heavier weight than what I've been using today. That was the Essex yarn dyed linen on the outside, and the succulent was just a quilting cotton. So this has a quilting cotton lining, and then this is the twill canvas by Spoonflower, which I actually love. If you're looking for like their canvases or denim or the linen cotton canvas, I find the twill to be the easiest to use. I haven't tried their latest one. I think they have a denim now, and I haven't tried it yet. I like the twill because it's smooth. It takes color really well. It has a lot of body, but it's not as thick and boardy as the linen cotton canvas, which I really love that linen cotton canvas. I love the texture of it, but if you're doing thick things like bags and things, it can be a little too thick. You don't really need that, you know, it's a little overkill. All right, so we don't have an insert in this one, so it's already done, you know. So let's do our last binding step on the bottom here. Less binding too on this one, because you don't have to bind your insert. All right, so same thing, put that fold just past that stitch line. I arrange my corner. This corner might stay since it has a little more body to it with the stiffener being inserted into the bottom. Got my ball here. Okay. Yeah, getting a little dicey on that corner there. At least on the vinyl you can see inside there. Pivot at those corners. I hear so much noise out in the parking lot. I don't understand what's going on out there. I hope it has nothing to do with the siren I heard earlier. I'm on like this like really high fire danger. It's not going to happen where I'm at in my office, but at my house, you know, like when I was driving home yesterday, there was a fire nearby my house, and I was like, oh boy, they were on it. Okay, look at that. This little guy's so cute. Yeah, I think the non-collapsible is my favorite. All right, so then get your stiffener. You're only gonna have 3 pieces for the non-collapsible. If you're doing the clear front collapsible, you're gonna have 4, 2 on each side and 1 on the, and then just 1 on the back. 4 for your sides, 1 on the back. And stick these in here. Oh man, it's so much easier on these smaller bins. All right, so let's see here. That in there. In your back. Okay, really push it in there. If you don't have clover clips, you can use, sometimes I think people use hair clips, binder clips. We can try pins. I just find the pins to be a little hard on my pins. See, it works. Oh, it's music I'm hearing. I like to push this corner right here. You see that? It will get in there. I'm not spending as much time on these as I did the others I made to get it really lined up, but it will get in there. You really want these fabrics to be exactly one behind the other. You don't want your lining to slip down lower than the outer fabric, because when you go to bind it, you want it to be there when you go to do that. You know what I mean? You don't want to accidentally lose one layer of your fabric when you go to that binding stitch. All right, so you can do pins, obviously. I'm using big quilting pins. There we go. Like that. And now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm not going to go through the vinyl. I'm just going to stitch on the lining side. I'm going to be really careful with these pins. I don't poke myself. When you have stiffener in the bottom, this part is definitely more in the mashing realm of mashing. Oh, my pins are facing the wrong way. So I'm going to push this away like this so that I can get this edge as straight, like along itself as possible. Just make sure you pull those pins out early because mine are pointing the wrong way. They are on the right side of the bin and the head is over there. So I'm basically pulling it like this. Big time sewing no-no in most circles. Hope you can see all this. See, my stiffener is sticking up above the edge right there. It's probably my binding seam was a little too big. Again, like I am trying to push this edge so that it stays nice and flush with the stiffener, just like that. I'm gonna throw away my bent pins. I don't mess around with those. It's like a bent nail. You don't keep a bent nail, right? All right, now let's look at our edge. You can see right here, I can trim this off. That back one was the one that was the least even. And it's okay. As long as your, bin is the same height all the way around, it doesn't matter if the stiffener's sticking up above it and you have to trim it. It's just one more step, right? All right, so this one only has one more step and it's done. So it's obviously a lot faster. I'm gonna start the same spot inside on the back and I'm gonna mash, 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 mash. I'll put a label on this one too. The vinyl will recover. Since we're not turning it right side out and the vinyl is getting like a pointed crease in it, it should be fine. So just keep that edge nice and straight with your binding. Lined up. Mash around. If there's ink on your vinyl, it'll get covered up now. All right. One more step. Trim it up a little bit. Keep my seam allowance straight. Especially these corners. That looks pretty good. Now we're on the right side. Remember, this side doesn't have corners, so there's corners of the bag, but the pattern pieces itself aren't a corner like it is on the bottom. It's just a long, straight edge. So mash it down. Fold your binding to the right side, just past that stitch line. Make sure you're not catching the bag underneath. So, uh-oh. I love that you're a noob cat owner. It's like the best part of this for me. I have a friend who's never had dogs. Her whole family's never had pets of any kind. And during this whole quarantine, her sister came home with, get this, a border collie puppy. And her sister is a pretty high energy gal. She's like 18. always wanted to go out and be with her friends and do things the way she wants. And, oh, man. And then my friend got a pug puppy. And it's just been, like, for me, really entertaining. So, yeah, ribbons are dangerous. Good thing their little poopers are pretty healthy. All right, so look at that. Look how nice it looks on the vinyl. You can really see, if you really want to practice your binding, I suggest doing it on vinyl. You can see where your stitch line is. It's so perfect. You know exactly where that needle's going to hit. I don't think I've said this once today, but the reason I say put that fold line just past that stitch line is if you keep your needle right on that stitch line or just to the right of it, your stitching is going to land on the binding on both sides. No problem. It's guaranteed. If we can see where your needle is going to land, that helps you visually get it correct the first time. All right, we're done. That's pretty cute. Look how different these look. Why is my label holder so crooked? Yeah. Yeah, right, exactly. They need a lot of exercise. Yeah, she's like, is this normal, Sarah? And I'm like, I finally was like, what kind of dog is this? Send me a picture. And I was like, oh. And she's like, what? Said, she got a border collie? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh, that's a working dog. She didn't know what that meant. You know, they just don't know anything about. It's understandable, right? They haven't had pets, so they don't know. I was like, oh yeah, they're cute. They're cute, but they need a job. So, all right, so we have our clear one. You can see next to me how it is, the clear front. Whoop, whoop, so cute. All right, well, I have one more to sew, and it's the collapsible clear front. Ooh, why did I cut the harder one? It's one of these with a clear front. You can stay if you like. I didn't get the fourth one cut. Sorry about that. And please, like, if you have any questions right now is a good time to ask. I'm probably gonna just sew this a little bit more leisurely and not sew as quick as possible so that you have this like nice condensed, you know, tutorial. And maybe we can get to that other one someday. I'm just gonna see how people are feeling. Yeah, Jack Russell's exactly. Yeah. Yeah, well, she didn't even like warn her family or anything. As my friend says, we're all scared of her. That's her young sister. I was like, yeah, I can see. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They get a little crazy. Oh, crayons. Oh, no. Yeah, Barbara. I've heard of that, too. That's good that the dog didn't hurt anybody. It wanted things to herd. Yeah. Yeah, we had a border collie lab cross. He was amazing. He was the most amazing dog. And that's when I ran 4 days a week and it was fine. You know, I was a runner. But when I had Cricket and we had the stroller, he wanted to herd us so bad. I couldn't run with a jogging stroller. He was so annoying. He would be right in front of it, as close as possible, going back and forth, and I would hit him all the time with it. And I don't know if you've ever pushed a jogging stroller, but it's a three-wheeled thing, and they're really touchy. They're really responsive, and so every time it would hit him, it would jerk the whole stroller and hit me. You know, not hit me, but make me hesitate. It was just really, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Not a sheep herding dog without sheep. Okay, my break time's over. Oh, I wanted to see how many people are here. Oh, nice. Oh, my bobbin's not winding. My bobbin's not winding. Sometimes it gets caught under the lever. That gonna work? I hope that works. Okay, I think it's the rainbow color, so I'll just keep that out. Yeah, I don't know. This kid, man. This kid. Oh, I didn't show you all the possibilities with the bins, and probably a lot of folks not really, need to see this anymore, but let's see. I did the non-collapsible clear, which is this one right there, and I did a collapsible all fabric. So the other two versions are collapsible with a clear front like this. So collapsible clear front. And then the all fabric non-collapsible, which is right now becoming a garbage bin because it's sitting too close to me. It's so big, I know, sorry. But I don't know if you can really even see these. This one's the clear front, collapsible. It's over here. It's nice. I put a box light up today, so the lighting's a little bit better. And I moved everything over to the right, so I have a lot more room over here. I moved the binding machine out of here. They sit in high five, Nancy. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love that. Did they get a treat for it? What was your method? Oh my gosh. An ottered live stream? What is that, Ray? I have to tell my husband about that. You want about funny screens? I know like on my iPad I can have more than one window going, but oh man, it is like it's like I get it sometimes and I don't other times, You could do it on your computer though. Hey, Michelle. Those little pom-pom. Oh, they're just pom-poms. Watermelon. They're just decoration. That's it. I forget you guys can see that sometimes, huh? But depending on my angle. All right, let's do this last one here. So this is a collapsible clear front. I love how I always have to look. And it's bigger than those two because I have this little shelf over here that I got like at an antique like yard thing, like at a ranch. All these vendors come and they put out their antiques. There's a lot of non-antiques there, obviously. And I really like it, but it's really scratchy. It's made from really scratchy wood. So putting stuff in there, I'm always worried that I'm going to scratch whatever, like the fabric, some of the fabrics. And it's also looks like a crate. So it's got slats. And so it works, but it doesn't work that great. And I actually stopped using it. I used it at home to hold my sweaters, but it was too scratchy. So I just realized today that I can make a bins for it. Because there's like 8 cubbies. I'll take a picture and show you. Let me see. You're gonna see this is my work in progress thing. I never show you guys. Oh boy, you guys are gonna judge me. Let me take one bin out so you can see what they look like. Okay, so this is it right here. There's 2 things sitting on top because I want to keep those in a certain position. But you can see they're like, it's like slats. And they even have a little label holder on the front. But they're a little shallower than my bins and they're the exact same height. So I made a bin today to fit inside there with clear fronts. And I'm going to I scooped the front edge of it. See that? It's shorter in the center so that I can get stuff in there. So it's wide and kind of shallow. Hey, Terry, how's it going? Yeah, are you making everyone one? An otter at a mammal rescue. Oh. Yeah, that's a great idea, Elizabeth. Yeah, like put a thread. Oh, I can make one for my serger. I love how we can't use like a cup. We have to make a bin for that. Yeah, won't that look great, Terry? Or Nancy? I know. That's what I think too. It'll actually make that thing so much easier to deal with too. So I'm glad. All right, so let's see here. So this is a collapsible clear front. All right, so here's my body. Here is my insert. Here's my bottom. Here's my front. And here is my stiffener. I like to line it up in the order of how I'm going to sew it. So I've got my insert, my stiffener, my bottom. That's the pretty much the order in which I'm going to sew it. And then I have my outer pieces right here. Same fabrics this time. I'm excited to have these bins. I already have a bunch cut out for all my knitting stuff at home, where I've been using boxy bags. The the boxy bag pattern that the Patreon. Oh, I just did this. There we go. There's a free boxy bag pattern that's clear if you want on the Patreon thing, and I have tons of those in different sizes and others that I've made along the way, and that's what I've always stored my yarn in. This is the side. I can see the halfway notch. If you forget your notches, really you just need your corners. If you forget your notches for the collapsible, you can mark those on the fly because they're just halfway on your sides. Open it out. Rethread your needle. How many bin bins have I made? Well, the pattern is sewn really, really good, but I probably just broke even on fabric. Don't answer? Okay. Because I didn't really have the appropriate fabrics in my stash for all of them. So, all right. You guys do the guessing game. Tell me when all your bets are in. While I sit here and total it. I got it. Do I include today's? Do I include today's? I have to think about this. Okay, I think I know my number. Oh no, what's wrong, Louise? Oh, Sydney. Okay, include today's, all right. I'm going to iron this and then I'll tell you. Look how cute these are. I'm still making sure I got my total correct here. Yeah, I think I have my total. You guys have your totals? thought of one more. I'm not including this one. Okay. You guys guessed really high. Oh, that I barely broke it. Yeah, that's how it is, Louise. 11. I've sewn 11. I did these 4. I did my chambray, the very first one. I did the border print in the Ruby Star Society Tigerfly. I did the clear one with that was like blue with the scallop print that's on the cover. I did the one with the weird handle on the front that's in a dandelion print that I actually haven't even photographed yet. I did I've cut out 6 in the Essex yarn dyed linen with the green print, and I've only sewn one of those. I sewed these 2 here, and I didn't include this. Yeah, Louise, I will. I haven't done the, I did do the top stitching right here, Eliza. Just really close. Can't really see it, but I did do it on either side, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to do a sample sale. That'll help a little bit. Yeah, if you're counting the ones I've cut out, Michelle wins. All right, you know what? I'm going to make a prize for that. Michelle, send me an email. I'm going to send you a prize. I have like 4 giveaways this month, and I just haven't been able to get to it. So I think that was really fun. Michelle, send me an email, sosolive@gmail.com. Tell me, yeah, hopefully I'll know it's you. But yeah. All right, so now I'm going to do my sides here. Let's see here. Let me make sure I got my correct one. I'm going to do my seam here. Yay, the winner! Let's see, how many have I cut out though? 11, 12. There's 5 more over there. That's 17. I think I've cut out almost 20 of them though. Wait, I want to make sure I'm not doing my. I gotta focus here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's that. Yeah. See, there's no notch right there. That's what makes me a little nervous here. Where is this notch at? I know that seam is one, and then I'm going to put one right there. Maybe that's it right there. So this is how you can check, right? So if I fold this in half and line that up right there, I have my seam right here. That's one corner right there. And so we can double check that by seeing if it matches this front. And it does. So that's my other corner right there. I like knowing other ways to check my math. Exactly. Someone's creating an email. You guys are so much fun. Okay, so let's do the bottom now. So this one, the bottom, the back is really wide. This is how the bin's going to be shaped, like this. So this is the front facing me. So it's very wide and shallow, and it has that scoop. And what did I tell myself to start further away from that corner? So let's try that strategy. I think I like to always start close to that because I can tell it lines up. So I need to walk my fabric a little bit closer to this corner over here. Wait, where's that corner? Oh, that's the side. Sorry, this is the back. There we go. Right here. Now, if you were doing the non-collapsible, your bottom would have the lining and the stiffener all as one right now. So you'd put those wrong sides together in their little pocket, and then sew the lining side to the lining here. Yeah, I have some fun giveaway stuff that I piled up. I used, yeah, I really, I need to reward you guys for my anniversary month. Maybe, I think what I'm going to do also is one during the Jelly Roll race stream, since we're going to be racing each other theoretically. Your vinyl side is a little less stretchy, so make sure you keep that one on task. I wish there wasn't COVID, man. It would be so nice to meet up with you guys. Ooh, the side's a little short. Put that out like that. That nice and flat. Smooth. I kind of do this with my fingers in between these layers at the corner. Pivot my binding. Remember, we're on the bottom side, so honestly, don't have to worry too much. No one's going to see this side, except the shelf. All right, let's trim our corners a little bit. So I'm trying to set up my sewing classes. I'm working on it. I spent so much time in the last few days. It's like setting up an entirely new website. I came up with a domain because you kind of have one that you can redirect. Domains are pretty cheap. And I'm having such a double of a time. Like, I feel like I have to do everything 4 times on this program. That's a lot of work. I may actually look at how I can just embed video on Shopify, since I'm so deep with Shopify. I'm going to look at that today. Because right now, I am kind of sick of setting all this stuff up. I just want to get to recording the classes. You know? So. Derek, yeah. I've been to Scotland like 4 times. I will be back. I hope I can meet folks like, you know, Judith Roslin, who started Sew Over 50. Ooh, I was a little wiggly there. You didn't see anything. You did not see that. It'll be fine. The good thing is that with the binding on the bottom edge, you know, the bin pushes it like this, you know, so you don't really see it. Night, Malin! Yay! Yeah, absolutely. I thought I was going to be in Sweden this summer. That would have been cool. Oh, Shopify is who my website's through, Ray. So there's a lot of places you can build your website, and I use Shopify. It's not something you have to know about. I like it. Some people think it's kind of expensive, but I started with them before they really like exploded. So my pricing is a little bit grandfathered into the original. They only raised it once finally. All right, so then, But like putting video, the reason I don't have video on there is because I have to pay for the space on their servers for video, and you guys see how much I stream. Live streams take up a lot more space because they're longer. Yeah, Liza. Nice. Sewing meetup, and that's a long way to go for some of us meetup. I think we could have a few meetups. I'll just travel around. Okay, so now we're gonna put our stiffener in. Oh, this was collapsible? Oh no! I didn't do my sides. All right, well, I've never missed that. Oh, look, there's my notch. Well, poo. All right, well, I'm gonna just add it in after I've sewn it. We'll see how that goes. Let's see if I can mark on here. Well, dang it. I haven't made a mistake like that yet. I guess it was time. Just like that. I just got an email for someone who watches here in Chico. I was pretty surprised. Yeah, you do. On Panopto for remote learning. What's that? Is that like Teachable? See, someone told me about Teachable, and I honestly just didn't look much further past it. I looked at like a whole, I did the trial and, you know, watched a video and all that. But I don't know much about those, and I don't know anyone to ask, like how they like it. All right, I'm just gonna go just shy of my binding, just like that. Dividers after the bottom is sewn. Don't do it this way if you can't, if you can avoid it. But if you decide you want your bag to be collapsible at the last second, you can still do it, unless you put your bottom in with a stiffener. See, that would be my that should have been my reminder that the bottom doesn't have stiffener, that this is the collapsible. All right, now let's put our stiffener in. Yeah, Ray, I've been thinking a lot about what you said. Ray made the suggestion of having like a monthly meetup, like a Zoom type of thing, and people pay like a subscription thing, and we could talk sewing. You can tell me, you know, show me what you're making, and I can help. And it just be like a, yeah, just like a instructional meetup type of thing. And I've actually been thinking about that. I just don't have a lot of bandwidth to add to that right there. So like add to it right now to think about, because of the Teachable. I'm spending hours trying to design this website and deal with domain names and things make me feel really uncomfortable dealing with, you know, like redirecting domains and DNSSEC stuff, and oh my god, that stuff makes my skin crawl. I follow the tutorial and I just do what they say, and then it sometimes doesn't work, you know? All right, why is this lining so slack? Was I slacking when I sewed it? So. Yeah, is that how many bin-bins you're making, Sarah? Or are you guessing? We did come up with the number. I've made 11 so far. That's probably less than you guys. I'm surprised that's less than you guys think. That's a lot of samples. All right, these little guys are like in here so easily. All right. Just make sure you really push it in there. It'll look so much nicer. You see this one's a little slack right here. I'm gonna push that in there. I'm taking it for granted that these fit in here so nicely. I'm gonna push those in there. And these smaller bins are a lot easier to manage the stiffener on than doing the big one, because the big ones are a little bit tricky. I like your ambition though, Sarah. Like, thanks for thinking I can make that many. Oh, okay, Eliza. Interesting. Oh, okay, cool, Louise. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, I want to make sure I find some, because I feel like if I'm already having issues, it makes me a little nervous, and it does cost me to be on there. That's why maybe I should just look at Shopify, because maybe I could just add to my plan. I will probably get there eventually. It is true. I feel like when I'm doing these and the lining is a little slack, when I go to sew it, it kind of gets a little better, not as slack. I'm really pulling this lining up to meet it. See, I feel like today all my things, at least one side. The stiffener is a little too tall. This print always sometimes looks upside down because it will, see like this one right here, I'm like, oh no, is that upside down? All I saw was that. But it's because of the, it just cut, you know, the dandelion is cut off. I'm pulling this bottom edge right here, and I'm trying to pull it but keep the stiffener in there without pulling on the stiffener too much. There we go. I'm curious to see if anyone will sew this without looking at the video using those instructions. I don't feel like that would be quite enough. Yeah. Where'd you, oh, where, signed up on those and bought the pattern. What'd you sign up on, Michelle? Did you find a sewing thing like that? Zoom and Teams meeting mouse. Well, that stuff. I'm so glad we're done with school. I was actually appreciating the other day. I really wanted to appreciate, like a lot of people love the first day of school, but it's always been kind of an anxiety day for us. And so I really took a moment to appreciate that we don't have a first day of school this year, and I'm really happy about that. Oh, me too, Michelle. I'm looking forward to, oh, you signed up. Oh, thanks. Nice. Yeah, I will send out newsletter when I start classes. I wanted to do a beginning class first, but I actually want that to be free. I want to do a really ultra beginner class. I want to do a beginner class geared towards the person who's afraid to start sewing because they feel like everybody's way far ahead of them and understands all the lingo and they don't know it, you know? And they don't even want to take a class at their local fabric store because they feel like they're supposed to know something already. And then it'll have a lot in it besides just that uber beginning. But I really want to do that. But I want that to be free so people can kind of decide, do I want to do this hobby as a hobby? You know what I mean? So so I realized if I want to do that, I should probably start with a class that is a paid class so I can start paying the overhead for it first, and then I'll work on my beginner class. I'm actually most excited about the beginner class, so I know it'll happen. I was even thinking of the first one being jeans. I don't know what you guys think about that. Like being an actual project of jeans. I don't know if that's a little bit more than what people are looking for or not. No, I don't think so, Ray. Yeah, I feel like it's the instructor's camera. Exactly, Liza. That has to be good. But everyone else's doesn't have to be that great. Unless they want to show something. You know, like they're like, I really want help with this. But, you know, the other way to get around that is you can send photos ahead of time. You know? Because that's what I was thinking is if we did the Zoom thing, I'd probably ask everybody, hey, do you want to submit what you want to talk about? You can obviously just bring things to talk about that day. But if you wanted a demo, a live demo on something, I would want to have some stuff ready so it's not eating up your time. So I would like to have some stuff prepared, you know? That's true, Sarah. If you count the ones I got your clothes. If you count the ones I've thought about making, yeah, you're really close. Yeah, and I actually think it would be kind of fun to do the classes for patterns. So what if I release a pattern and it's more in that format of teaching, you know? That way they get a chaptered video series so they can go, okay, I'm just going to prep this and I'm just going to watch that video, you know? Right, Nancy? I know. I feel the same way. Jeans are pretty easy. Easy, you know. Yeah, and the other thing I think about having jeans is that it's a video series they're going to own forever. They can watch it as many times as they want. And I don't know about you guys, and I'm sure you guys are going to agree, when you're at those classes, you're like, oh yeah, this makes so much sense. I get this. I'm never going to forget this. And literally next month, when you go to do it again, you're like, shoot, was it this or this? You know, and you forget. And this way they would have the video forever. They can watch it as many times as they want. It's crazy how expensive some of the classes on Teachable are. They're like $600. I'm like, I mean, I guess if they sold it one time, they'd be okay. All right, so now I'm making my insert. Ooh, I can't wait to put this in the thing behind me. Test it out. See, now I'm pivoting, Ray, because it's faster. The quick and dirty. Round. Whoops, that was a little too short. Rounded. Rounded. Yeah, Eliza, that would, okay. The pattern drafting for the like subscription thing. That's cool. So the Closet Core one you took, was it in person? Yeah, right, Eliza, exactly. Do you mean 400? Yeah, exactly. I know that there are classes that cost that much. I've seen them, like making jeans. And I just think maybe, yeah, that is definitely... The person is worth that, but at the same time, unless you're going into doing it professionally, that's a hard sell for a lot of people, you know? I'm hoping my classes are kind of in that $50 to $65 range, and anywhere like above and below that. That's what I'm thinking. Depends on what it is and how long they are, but they're not going to be an hour long, you know? They're going to be a lot longer than that. When I just bought classes from someone teaching some Illustrator techniques, and hers are about 50 to 100, and they're like an hour to 2 hours, and they're really good. They're really good information, and I have them, and I've watched them a few times. I felt like that was pretty good, and she doesn't even have a face cam, so it's pretty simple. I like the simplicity of it. All right, I'm gonna put it in here. That's a heavy bin. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Okay, let's fill it up. We gotta fill it up. This is, I cut a spare one of these quilts. That's a template I made. So here's my little, we'll put it so we can see it at the window right there. I'll take a picture of you guys. Let me take a picture of you guys. Before and after, look at that. Can you guys see that? Wait. It looks so good. Yay. What? $400? I mean, if it includes the, does it include the materials? Because that's about $120 for me to buy enough denim for a project. Usually it has enough for 2 pairs of jeans. Wow. Gosh, I hope I'm good enough for that. So I've been like writing my bio. I don't know why, but it's not coming up. 400. Wow. Well, if you're doing custom stuff, I get that. Pounds sterling, Jeremy. That's a lot. But you know, I'm telling you, like if I were to do a custom pair of pants pattern for someone, it would cost that. But they'd have the pattern forever, and they could make as many pairs of pants as they want. Ah, Ray, okay. You want the in addition. Yeah. Ray, you would like a more of like a social sewing. I like that idea. I think we should start that anyway. Doesn't have to cost at all. That is an in-person class, max 6 to 8. I mean, okay. You know, I don't know why I'm scoffing at that, because some of the classes where they have guest teachers come for quilting things, they cost about that, because the person has to travel there. If the person has to travel there and get and then stay, and that is what it costs to get them there. Yeah. Yeah, right? Exactly, Ray. Yeah. You want a community. Yeah, I feel you on that. Me too. If it includes food, right? Sign us up. Okay, so we made 3 today. I was just like scratching my leg and there's so much lotion on it. I had a little allergic reaction today. Ooh, look at them all close together. Oh, as you looked at it as a retreat. Yeah, I think that's fair enough, Sydney. I've done that. I did that. I've done the Make, Wear, Love knitting retreat a couple times. It was more than that. And there was a ton of different teachers. But it was a retreat. I even brought my mom to the one in Maine. It was awesome. It was so fun to have my mom there, but everyone was so ageist and they thought she was the knitter. And when we would go to breakfast, she brought all the sweaters I had knit for her and she was wearing them. It was adorable. And so she quickly learned how knitters communicate with each other. And all you knitters out there, you know what I mean. Because you go, oh yeah, so it's the such and such pattern in the such and such yarn. You know, like that's, you say that type of stuff, right? And so she got so good at saying that, people thought she knit her sweaters and she didn't realize that. And so I would sit with her and people would be like, oh, did you bring your daughter? How sweet. And I'm like, no, I brought my mom. I knit that. Because they'd see my sweater and they're like, wow, you knit that too. And I'd be like, wait, what is going on here? My mom had no clue. She wasn't trying to say she knit everything, but it was really cute. Like she had the talk down pat. She'd be like, oh yeah, this is the chickadee cardigan in Sincere Sheep, which is naturally dyed. And it was, and she would, right before we'd walk out the door of our hotel room, and I got us the lighthouse. We stayed in the lighthouse. So, because it was fun. and I registered late, and that was what was available. But yeah, it was really cool. And she was so cute. Yeah. She lost all those sweaters in the fire. I gotta start knitting again. Yeah, these are your people. No, I know. I know. And you know, I love when we have new folks here. Everybody's welcome to chat here, you know? It's good. I really this is what it is. This is it, right? This is awesome. Okay, so we all want a social Zoom thing. Would someone like to set that up? Who wants to set that up? And then I'm gonna think about the subscription thing too. And then I am working on the classes. That's gonna be that's a longer process, but I'm very motivated, and I feel like that might be a really good thing for me. So, yes, you're sewing peeps. Sewing peeps, exactly. All are welcome here too. All abilities too. Like if there's anyone out there that is super beginner, you are welcome here. Absolutely. We need you. We need people to round everybody out. And I feel like everybody here is at different levels and interests. So you might be really good at doing this type of project, but a beginner in this other project, you know, and that's just how it is. No one's an expert in everything. I'm not an expert in everything. Like getting a Heather Lou jeans class is going to be probably a pretty fantastic jeans class, you know. Barbara, do you want to set it up? The classes are not a live interaction. It would be like a video class, and it'll be like in chapters if I want it to be. So say it's jeans. It'll be like the first video will be like, this is cutting them out and fitting them and picking your size. That might even be 2 chapters, picking your size and the sizing. And then the second one's the cutting. And you can just watch it like little modules. And then included in the class will be a live Zoom meetup if you want. You can choose it. And for me, the Zoom meetups, I did one and it was really awesome because I could say, hey, how do you do this? I can't figure it out. I was really nervous to do it, and I had to be prepared to have a question ready if I wanted one because that was my opportunity. But I haven't made it to the others of the classes because I haven't watched the class. And so I think if I watch those classes and I want to be in a Zoom meetup, I'll probably email and ask nicely, hey, I finally have done this class. If you ever do a Zoom meetup and someone isn't going to show up, may I please join? So I think that's what I would do, and I would offer that to people as well. People asking questions helps other people. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, Eliza, you seem really swamped with setting all that up. Exactly. Well, we can do that through the Facebook group, Barbara. Are you in the Facebook group? I'm pretty sure you are. Yeah, and I could send the link. Yeah. So what do you think of that, Louise? I was moving that weekend, Louise. It sounds like it was really fun, though. I got tagged a few times in that. People were like, you got to come to this. I was moving. I didn't have internet. Yeah, so if you go to teachable.com, you can see a lot of courses on there, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. My school's on there. It's not on there. I have it set up. It's going to be sososchool.com, but it's not updating all my content that I've been spending so much time working on. So what did you guys like about the Sewing Weekender? Maybe we should chat about that. See, maybe we should chat about that in our first Zoom call. Yeah, I mean, I think you could do very, like, social Zoom things where people are just sewing at the same time or just chatting about sewing. Yeah, and sending the link to people so it's legit. Yeah, exactly. I think we could probably figure out a way to do that. I could, I'll ask around how people do it because I have friends that are hosting them, and we could figure that out. No, but we have a private sewing group on there, Barbara. There's a private sewing group for So Live. Which they changed the app and I wasn't getting I didn't see anything you guys were posting, and I just saw the other day. I was so sad. I just had to delete that app. The Pages app. That was like an event. Yeah, and you get a password to enter the class, exactly. Yeah, so I think we could set up a Zoom, people who are interested in the Zoom, and just focus it on that so not everybody gets bombarded with that information. It could even be a separate newsletter. I could set up as, not for Zoom. Yeah. The Sewing Weekender was who put that on again? I don't remember who put that on. I feel like it was someone in Great Britain, but it was worldwide, and there was like all kinds of things you could tune into for Zoom meetups and stuff, and meet a bunch of sewists. I don't know though, I didn't do it. You could probably Google it. So Sydney went. Ask Sydney. People are going to see the sewing video and go, oh my God, 3 hours. Oh. Oh, I thought it was the fold line gal. Okay. Okay, yeah, the fold line. Yeah, not on Facebook, Louise. Zoom is like a separate thing and you don't have to be on it. I am not on Facebook except for that So Live group. In fact, I feel like lately I'm missing out on a few things, and I'm not going to sign up. I just don't want it. I have it. I don't want to use Facebook. Yeah, it was the fold line. My Streamlabs things. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. This was awesome. I had a lot of fun sewing these with you guys. I hope that you guys are getting your bins made. Oh, Patreon would be a good way, but not everybody's a Patreon patron. English girl at home, that is. Okay. Ah, okay. Yeah, okay. Louise knows the details. Yeah, right. I know, it doesn't go to another one exactly. I know, lately I've been just putting gaming streams of games I don't even play on the background. I just like the noise. I don't know why. I'm listening to so many books right now, but I can't listen to a book while I'm doing all this web stuff. The web stuff. Oh, look at this. So cute. I need to sew this other one here. You know, Walter had that whole finally finished objects thing. Yes, that's the Facebook group, Barbara. So Live Sewists. And I cleared out that whole thing, and now I have like project bags and pocket buckets that I'm going to sew up to do in the sample sale. So I have my quilt sitting here, my quilt top that I finished, but it doesn't match in a couple spots, so I want to fix it. That's okay with me. There was a couple others that are worse, you know. I want to fix that. That's what this is right here. But if I put it all in bins, I won't even notice. So Life Social Society. Are you guys coming out with a name for it? Yeah, exactly. This is so much easier, right, Louise? These are so much easier. I love doing the math on them, too. I love filling in the blanks. Oh, so satisfying. Okay, well, enjoy, you guys. I hope you guys do so. If you please tag it on Instagram so I can see what you guys are doing. SSBinBin. So patterns. Put those tags with it. Just put the hashtag in that. Yeah. I know, that quilt's so cool. I saw someone, they posted one on the Ruby Star Society, or maybe it was Melody. Wait. What's her name? I think it was Ruby Star. They posted one of that same quilt not using the rainbow one, and it was awesome. They did all of these Ruby Star fabrics. Yay! I'm so glad, Nancy. Okay, all right. I will see you guys next Wednesday. Michelle's ready for underwear sewing. I'm going to be sewing underwear. I better get my act together and sewing knits with my home machine because I haven't done that in a few years. You're going to see me noob do it because I haven't done it in a while. But I'm excited. I have a bunch of knit things I want. I want like a little tank top to sleep in that's a little longer because I only have one and I wear it every day and then I wash it, you know? I need a bunch of those. So maybe I'll just stick to sewing for a few knits. And then last week we're doing the Jelly Roll Race Quilt. So if you guys want to participate, we all will be sewing it at the same time. You guys better be doing it. You guys got me into this. I'm going to be making my jelly rolls. So, and you can just look that up. I think I linked it somewhere. Maybe I didn't. I'm not sure. So, anywho. All right. Have a great weekend. Nice, Nancy. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a cutting one a couple days ago. So, and maybe eventually I'll do some dedicated videos for this. So, yeah. He said bye, not hi. Yeah, I saw that. All right, you guys. I love hanging out with you guys. Have a great weekend. I will see you Wednesday. It's the only stream this month I'm doing on a Wednesday. My only 3-day stream. So we're going to do men's underwear and women's underwear on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, next week, 11 a.m. Pacific. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.